Okay, so verse 12 again. We left off at verse 13, remember last time? But first, verse 12 says, "For if the protomia proikeitai, if the desire, no, the readiness, the eagerness is present, it is," we add an estin in this here. So it is euprosdektos. It is completely acceptable according to the amount if he has. Not according to the amount that he does not have. You cannot give what you do not have. And now verse 13, this is where we left off. We kind of finished it, but there was a few points that I did not cover, such as here, ex isoteitos, and I forgot to mention that this is a continuation. Verse 14 is a continuation of this. So, he's about to explain gar, for not. We add estin an impersonal verb here, but we're going to make it a subjunctive because here it's hina of purpose plus the subjunctive of purpose. It is not so that there might be, or so that there is, anesis. Why do I make it an ami? Because this is a predicate nominative. Anesis is in the nominative, singular feminative. So, not so that there may be or there might be anesis, relief or respite. So that's how I know it's that's why I insert an ami in the third person singular subjunctive, present active subjunctive of ami, and that would be eia. Hina anesis. So not so that there may be nesis, relief, and then what is this? Alois is the dative of disadvantage or advantage here of alos. Alos is another of the same kind. Who is another of the same kind? The Jerusalem Christians. Why the same kind? Because they also have a surplus of something and a lack of something, just as the Corinthians have a lack of something but a surplus of something. The Corinthians have a surplus of material blessings, of money, but they lack the pastors, and they're growing and they're going to need those pastors. The Jerusalem Christians, they lack the finances, the money. They're poor, they're dying of hunger. But there's still a lot of seminary students over there, so they have a surplus of the spiritual blessing, which the Corinthians need. And so these Jerusalem Christians do not have any food to eat. How are these pastors going to continue advancing, preparing themselves? It is true that the Jerusalem Christians, they already are apostate, many of them, but just as anywhere, in the midst of apostasy, there might be a few pastors here and there coming out of apostate seminaries and advancing in the plan of God, kind of breaking away from the apostasy of everyone else and becoming obedient all the way to super grace and leading their flock all the way to super grace. Okay, so for it is not so that there may be, anesis, relief to the advantage of others. This is very elliptical because we have here humin thlipsis, and there's no verb. We carry on with the verb of ami over here that we added, but we add the adverb while. So it is not so that there may be relief to the advantage of others of the same kind, while thlipsis, another nominative and a dative of disadvantage, while pressure to your disadvantage. So he's saying, I'm not doing this so that we can give favor to the Jews once again. All these Jewish Christians over there in Jerusalem, yes, we're living in the dispensation of the church, and there's equality between Greek and Gentile. There's no such thing as racial distinctions in Christ. Yes, so he's telling him it is not to favor them. It is not so that there may be relief to the advantage of another of a different kind, another of the same kind, while pressure to your disadvantage. This is so that we can achieve a balance. And so here we have Allah, but rather Ex isoteitos. Ex plus the genitive, ablative of source. This is the original meaning, the ablative of source. Out from the source of something. Out from the source of equality. Out from the source of a principle here. Rather, it's on the basis. Out of the basis, or on the basis of isotetos, equality. What is this equality that Paul's trying to achieve? And this is, on one hand, you have the temporal blessing that the Corinthians have. On the other hand, you have the spiritual blessing that the Jerusalem Christians have. Both of them have something that each other need, and therefore there's going to be an exchange so that there can be a balance achieved. It does happen that God uses intermediate agents, such as Paul, to achieve his logistical grace. God will use certain people, he'll use things, he'll use the laws of divine establishment to achieve his logistical grace to you, to anyone else. Here in this case, he's using Paul, his administrating abilities, so that the Corinthians can have the spiritual blessing that they need, while the Jerusalem Christians can have the temporal blessing that they need, all under God's logistical grace. Okay, we're not done. This is the part of the sentence of verse 14. What do we have? It is not so that there might be a relief to the advantage of others of the same kind, while pressure to your disadvantage, but on the basis of equality, balance. Verse 14, in the right time, at the right time. Okay, what does the NIV say? It says, at the present time, your plenty will supply what they need, so that in turn their plenty will supply what you need. The goal is equality. Okay, this is the continuation of the sentence. Ex isoteitos, on the basis of equality, a balance. And then you have verse 14, and verse 14, which is still the continuation of this sentence, ends with the same word, isotes, so that, or to the end that equality is formed, a balance is formed. So verse 14 explains the beginning of this word. It ends the sentence with the same word, explaining what this balance is, what this equality is. Okay? And plus, let me pull out my notes so that I'm consistent with the information that I give you. So we have a temporal dative here. N plus kaido. It's in or within, when, while, during, or the time within which. So in the time. And then the noon here, it's an adverb, but it's in the attributive position. Therefore, this adverb becomes an adjective in the now time, because it's in the attributive position between the article and its noun. Okay? In the now time. At the present time, if you prefer better English. Kairos, in contrast to chronos. Kairos and chronos are both used in different ways, but kairos here means is the proper time, an opportune time, the right time. Paul's telling him this is the right time for you to give to the Jerusalem Christians, because right now you have a surplus of material blessings, temporal blessings from God's logistical grace. And God does these things on purpose. This is for the purpose of them being put to test as to the legitimacy of their love, personal love for God the Father, problem-solving device number 7, impersonal love for all mankind, problem-solving device number 8, expressed towards the Jerusalem Christians. So kairos means proper time, opportune time, season time. Chronos most of the time has to do with the chronological time, but it can also be used in this way, but not as much as kairos. Kairos is the right word to use here, because this is the right time for the Corinthians to give. So we're going to translate it at the present time. The present right time. The present time, which is opportune. Okay. So, but on the basis of equality, at the present time, and now where's the nominative case? Here it is, to perisseuma, with the genitive of possession and the attributive position, to humon perisseuma. This is the nominative here. And we're going to translate this here, your abundance, your abundance, the abundance of yours, your abundance. There's no verb here, so we add aiming, the present active indicative, third person singular of aiming. The abundance is, and what, where? What do we have here? We have a prepositional phrase. Eis plus the accusative of hustereima over here. The article is here and the accusative singular, to hustereima, the lack or your need. We're going to translate this need in contrast to the abundance of the Corinthians. The Corinthians have an abundance of material blessings, financial blessings from God's logistical grace. But the Jerusalem Christians do not have these blessings. They are in need. To hustereima. And then in the attributive position again, between the article and its noun, is ekeinos in the genitive plural. This is the genitive of possession. Ekeinos means of those types, of those guys. Why does he use those, the distant demonstrative? To make a contrast between the Corinthians. They are not in need, even though the Corinthians are in need, but here he's emphasizing the specific need of them, those guys is over there. So what does it say? At the present time, your abundance is for the need of those. We're going to translate it their need, but literally is the need of those guys, the need of those Christians. Eis plus the accusative here is eis plus the accusative of advantage. Many people deny that there is eis plus the accusative of advantage here, but it is advantage. The abundance is to the advantage of their need. All right, and we're going to translate it just that. So, is for. Your abundance is for their need, for their lack. Okay? It's for their need, for their lack. But on the basis of equality, at the present time, the opportune time, the right time, your abundance is for their need, for the benefit of their need. Okay? And then we can continue with the next one. So we have a purpose clause. In order that, but keep this in mind, we have a purpose clause here, hina, and then we have another purpose clause here, hopos. In order that. What is the difference between these two, clauses, these conjunctions that express purpose? This is intermediate goal, hina. This is ultimate goal. So we can say that this is translated for the purpose or so that, and then this one is to the end that. This is ultimate goal over here. The ultimate goal is achieving a balance, equality. But meanwhile, before that, we must have intermediate purposes, such as in order that their abundance. So we have hina plus the adjunctive of kai. The adjunctive is also. So at the present time, your abundance is for their need, so that also to perisseuma ekeinon, the abundance of those guys, of those types, of those Christians, ekeinos. Ekeinos is in the attributive position again, between the article and its noun. The abundance of them, their abundance, just to make it simpler English. But why is he using aquenos? He's distinguishing them in contrast to the Corinthians, so there is no confusion.